Hey everyone, welcome to Not Keeping It Real. I'm David Crane, along with Tony Gavon, and we're reviewing nothing but wrestling. It was the biggest week of the year for wrestling, yay! And a whole week of WWE wrestling, really. So, take that for what it is.
Not very much.
Not very much.
No.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
After Mania, the main event, no. I'm kind of. For those of you who wasted your time with all the days of Mania weekend, my condolences.
All day?
All the nights of Mania, the Hall of
I
Fame.
did that. It wasn't a weekend, Tony. It was a week. It was 2 Hall of Fame sessions last Tuesday. We're recording this on the following Tuesday. It was NXT Stand and Deliver, whatever, Takeover /ABC. Number 1 on Wednesday night, number 2 on Thursday night, and then SmackDown, because if you wanted to watch the Andre Battle Royal, like that tradition alive, you watch SmackDown, and WrestleMania in night 1, WrestleMania night 2, and then last night I did the best I could with Raw. I watched the Raw after Mania because I don't watch Raw ever, and it's like, it's supposed to be like the biggest night of the year for Raw, like the night after Mania.
What were you? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Dave originally wanted to host this thing on Monday, but he's like, you know what? It's the Monday night after Raw, after Mania. You gotta watch because something big usually happens, and oh man.
I don't generally think of my voice as being that deep, but that's cool, man.
It's deeper than mine, so.
I'm not a giant. I watched it ish. We'll get into that really quick. So I watched it because I was like, I think it's actually the first year that I consider not watching, but I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. And then, the show opens with like Lashley and Riddle, and they do their thing where they make Lashley look strong and Riddle looks weak, and that's cool. And then I forget what I don't know. I think that's maybe when Charlotte did her promo. She came out and she was like, I'm back and it's all about me. And that excites fans, I'm sure, so much, Then the Hurt Business wrestled the Viking Raiders, who came back. And that's the moment I went to sleep. Actually, I physically went to sleep. I had a nap, folks. And frankly, thanks to quarantine and being a really lazy fuck, I do take naps during the day sometimes. Sometimes they might be around 8 o'clock, and that's when it was. But still, it was like, oh, I'd so much rather sleep right now than watch this fucking show. And I woke up like 15 minutes later, with a really good feeling. But I was like, I'm still watching this. Okay. So the next segment, I think, was Io Shirai versus Rhea Ripley. Not Io Shirai. That would have been awesome.
I was going to say, that sounds like a hell of a show.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley wrestled, the woman she beat, Asuka. See, that's going to sound bad.
Were you at a loss the name for Asuka?
What?
I said, were you at a loss for a name in Asuka? I was like, okay, he's
either doing like a Kabuki Warrior. I know Asuka, man. Like, Asuka's awesome. I don't know what I was, I'm still in a fade. I'm still in a fog right now, maybe. I don't know. So there was like a DQ or something, and Charlotte came out, and she was like, it's all about me still. And people were like, okay. Yeah. And then they had like another hour and a half of the show. And at that point, I was like, I fucking don't want to watch this show. So I read the results. Because I live on the West Coast, and I was like, I'm really glad I read the results because this show looks awful.
Yeah, and people didn't know what to expect. We're like, okay, if we temper down our expectations, we might get Brock and we might get Becky. I don't think we're going to get both, but we might get one or the other. And all we really got were the Viking Raiders and Charlotte, and it's like, oof.
Yeah, but I didn't even go into those expectations, Tony. I was just like, they're going to give me something to watch. They're going to give me like something to be like, yeah, okay, like.
Or someone will get.
This is like their mission statement for the rest of the year. Like, here's something to be excited about, frankly. Yeah. And honestly, Brock wouldn't have done that for me. Becky would have done that for me, but Brock, like, oh, we've been there.
If somebody get called up, like, oh, Johnny Gargano shows up on Raw, or Walter, or somebody else from NXT.
Right.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, like maybe Adam Cole shows up, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, frankly, like I think they should just like move him to the main brands now, based off of what happened last week and based off of what's been going on the past couple of years, really, with this character. But yeah, I was just like, no. And I guess they had a triple threat match in the main event that I did not watch, and it was Braun and Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is interesting because he's like Lashley's like definitely been a character where like they already killed him before they started him, you know. So like now they're building him up a little bit, and it's like, okay, maybe. I mean, he's world champion, obviously, but like still, you know, they're making him feel a little more fresh, I guess is my point. They're making him feel a little bit more like we haven't been here yet with him, so like, okay, you know, like not totally a dead character. Rhea Ripley's awesome. Asuka's still pretty awesome in my opinion. I mean, the women's division isn't as bad as the men's division, but yeah, the men's division likewise, like there's like one legit guy you can be excited about, and that's Drew McIntyre, and that's it. Like I think he has like that credibility.
Yeah.
Because they may be a Matt Riddle, but it's like they're gonna just job him, and or you could say maybe a Keith Lee, but he's not around. And you know, like Keith Lee could have come back last night, and I would have been like, all right, yeah, maybe he's gonna do some shit. You know, maybe they could have like Keith Lee versus Lashley at the next pay-per-view. That didn't happen, so it was definitely like awful. And folks, like I would rate like WrestleMania, like I'll just do real quick. Like night 1, maybe a 6. You know, night 2, maybe a 7. Like Raw itself as a show is like so bad. I've watched it again. Like I you know, it's like not it doesn't register really. It's like a 0.3 out of 10. That's my opinion. Raws are like that now apparently. Like they're not even. There's no like, you know, there's food that they say like there's no nutritional value out of this food, like straight up candy. You know, that's what fucking Raw is. But it's not fun like candy. It's just like really boring. So like, no nutrition, no entertainment value out of this product at all. That's where they're at.
Yeah, because you know, that's like you mentioned earlier. It's like, okay, it's the Raw after Mania. People like me and you who maybe aren't necessarily going to watch Raw every week, partially because it's 3 hours, but also because it's, you know, just kind of a nothing show now.
Yeah.
But you know, you muster up the interest. You're like, you know what? They're coming off Mania. They usually either do someone's coming back or someone's going to get the big call up. And then this was really sort of a middle of the road Raw show. I feel like on paper it was okay. But
did you watch it, or did you watch it? Or did you read about it?
I watched parts of it. I mean, I
can't. Oh wow, that's a lot for you too. I mean, honestly, yeah.
So it's like, okay, this is really disappointing. I mean, I guess any other time of the year, any other Monday night, it wouldn't have been that bad. But this is the Raw after Mania. It's supposed to be kind of a big deal. It's kind of like the third unofficial night of Mania, and it's like okay, do almost nothing.
I mean, I feel like even SmackDown was like that, like the pre-night before Mania. Like I didn't think it was actually that bad. I watched the full episode of SmackDown, and they had 3 great promos. One from Edge, one from Daniel Bryan, one from Roman, and got you ready for the matches of that match. And then you had the Andre Battle Royal, which I thought was all right. 4-way tag team match was all right, which should have been on the main show. Both matches should have been on the main show. But yeah, anyway, like I've watched a lot of wrestling, and I think consistently what I've seen out of Raw over the past couple of years, like when I have like just decided to watch it, and really the last year, is like this product is legitimately consistently worse than any other wrestling product I've ever watched.
I don't know. I don't know if I say it's bad, but it's like nothing's happening. It's like it's just the same guys having the same matches again, and nothing matters.
But here's the thing, like, what would you say would be like mainstream wise? We'll say mainstream. We won't say maybe like, okay, maybe there's a random indie out there that really fucking sucks. Okay, whatever. But like mainstream wise, what is a worse product than this type of television?
Currently or of all time?
All time. Because I will say, personally, and I don't look at the things of like, oh, did they do something that's going to make them more money? I don't look at that shit. I'm like, is it entertaining? Like, I'm watching, like, I'm doing a total rewatch of everything. I'm right now in 2000 WCW, and I remember it being like the worst time. Like when Russo left, and Benoit and Eddie and everybody, like everybody like was leaving the second ship, and they didn't know what to do for like 2 or 3 months from January to March. It was like the worst product. I'd ever seen. And now I'm like, that's so much better than what Raw's doing. Like,
I still say TNA under Russo was pretty bad.
But they always had a little something, you know. They always had you'd watch like a 2-hour pay-per-view or whatever, and you'd like get like one cool X Division match. Where's my cool X Division match, man?
I'm still of the opinion that it's not bad, but it's just boring. And I think boring's even worse. I don't understand what you're saying. With TNA under Russo was so bad, it was kind of entertaining because you were watching just how bad and how stupid can this product get. Whereas now,
it's like, you know, there's like have an hour and a half of like crap, and then, yeah, there was a bit of like, yeah, this is kind of entertaining from like the sense that like, what's the next car crash? Yeah. But they still had like a 15-minute match in there that'd be like, oh, well, we have AJ and Red on, so like that's what the smart marks are gonna like order the pay-per-view for, and then we'll make him put up with the rest of our shit. Like, where's my fucking match where I can be like, yeah, I'm excited about this show. Even if it's like Ricochet versus Riddle and it's like fun, you know, it's like, where is this match? You know, like even if they're not even going to do anything with the guys, like, where is this? You know, and I think, yeah, it may not be the worst bad, you know, in terms of bad, like stupid, like redundantly dumb booking, like just like you're really throwing away a lot of money here, but it's definitely the most boring product, and like you said. And boring is worse in the land of television, in my opinion.
No, and you're definitely right. But when you say it's the worst, it's like, okay, well, we can argue back and forth. Whereas I would pick modern day Raw over watching Impact under Russo.
I would not, but you know what?
Like,
would you?
So bad.
So let me rephrase the question right now. Then I'm just putting you on the spot. Was a more boring product than like this type of, you know, Raw? In general, what you've seen Raw in the last couple of years, maybe, I don't know. What's more boring?
There's one, but I don't want to make you mad, so I'm gonna say there was a certain era of Ring of Honor that was kind of boring. I don't want to say what.
Oh, you mean like when Seth Rollins was wrestling Daniel Bryan in the main event and stuff like that? That was boring. All right.
Well, there was a certain era of Ring of Honor that I found particularly boring, but it's not getting
HD net years of ROH, I think. Knowing you know,
those were really rough years. And then also Impact when they got in TNA when they got rid of Russo, it's like, okay, it's not bad anymore, but it's just whatever. Like it's not bad anymore, but it's also not good.
I don't know. I stand by what I said, but that's fair. You brought out some good alternatives, and some of the people listening probably would agree with you on that. I just like, I'm just so turned off. I don't know, but like I've been watching the pay-per-views for like the past year and really staying away from.
You're talking about those matches, the women's division matches. I mean, at least the singles titles are really good. Those are really good matches.
But they didn't have really good matches last night, so I don't know. You know, like that's the thing. Like, I think they get like it's interesting. It's interesting. Like back in those TNA days, back in this day or ROH or whatever. Like you go to the main shows, like the big pay-per-views or whatever. Those still were more like whatever you thought they were a reflection of that. I watch the pay-per-views now with the WWE, and it's like these are all right shows. Like I'm kind of like, you know, this is okay. Like I don't think it's the best Mania. I kind of thought Night 1 was the worst, and we'll get into that. But this is a better. This is like this is a consistently good pay-per-view product that they're putting out. Like, and I mean good in the very nice way of saying, like, you know, you're 6 out of 10. That's fine. You know, you're fine. You know, that's okay. There's certainly WCW pay-per-views the era I was talking about in 2000 that are like 1s, 2s, like they're awful. You know, but they were reflections of the TV product. This like type of Raw and those things that I've seen over the past couple of years are almost like a totally different product than what you get on the pay-per-view. On the pay-per-view, you get like longer matches, you get things that actually mean something. So that's the difference, really. I mean, having Rhea Ripley go out there and wrestle Asuka for like 10 minutes in a clunkier match than they had the night before. And I love Rhea Ripley, but like, and then they have a non-finish and they put over a talent that we've seen way too much of already. Like that does nothing for me. The women's division is pretty freaking great. We all know that. But again, it's more on display on pay-per-views. It's not like as on display on shows like this, you know. So, But I guess we should get into some of these shows. What did you, I'm going to just make things a little shorter and easier. What did you watch last week, Tony? Let's go into that because I watched it all. Unfortunately,
I can't say I watched it all. I watched bits and pieces of everything because there was a lot to watch. There was Hall of Fame, there was NXT, and then there was Mania. So I saw a little bit of everything. I wouldn't say I watched any particular show all the way through, but I saw enough to be able to critique it and be able to say what I liked and what I didn't like.
Right. So, Hall of Fame, you watched some of that.
That was fun. Those typically, you know what you're getting. They're really kind of a milquetoast product. It's just guys going to the Hall of Fame, telling funny stories, and it's like guys you haven't seen forever. So it's like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is fun. This isn't like it's not the be all end all. It's like no businesses are gonna rise and fall with this, but it's a fun show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun show because you get to see a lot of the stars like you always, enjoyed over the years, like RVD or Kane or the NWO or whatever, I thought like I would really hate because I really like long speeches, like back in the day, they used to do the long speeches like where it was like they tell some really good stories in there and like it felt a little bit like it definitely felt like the closest thing that you would get to like a shooter interview in the WWE at the time at least. You just got cool shit, got cool stories. They have really gotten away from that a lot over the years. And like this time you weren't really going to get any of that. Like everybody's speech was like less than 5 minutes pretty much, except for like the headliners who got like 10 to 15. And so it was just really quick. They got through like 15. I mean, they got through, all the class of 2020 in less than an hour and a half. They got through the class of 2021 in less than an hour and a half. And then they just put both, side by side. I thought it was fun. It was like I thought I would hate the fact that we didn't get long speeches, and like maybe I would book it differently, obviously, but like it was still really, really entertaining and very nostalgic and fun. So,
and they don't really have the excuse for not giving the free speeches. I mean, the long speeches, because before I think there was a couple of years where they were actually on.
They were live on USA.
Yeah, so it's like okay, yeah, you did have to keep them really short, and it made sense to kind of. Play the music and hurry people off. But it's like, okay, the last couple of years you've been on the network, so you have seemingly unlimited time. And now that you're on Peacock and they need content, you think, oh, just let everybody go nuts.
Yeah, and I think that, well, I'll go into that a little bit with WrestleMania, but I think that like basically their mindset is like they're kind of listening to the fans and they think like the fans don't want something super long. And Bruce Prichard's like the head booker, and he really listened to, Conrad and also had the feeling himself that, like, I don't think they should be marathon shows. Like, WrestleMania shouldn't be 6 hours long. And now he's like the head booker of Raw and SmackDown. So that's why Mania was probably so short this year. I mean, it was 2 nights, obviously, but still, I mean, it was like it was pretty short if you count them as an actual whole Mania night 1 or night 2. So I think there's just like a conscious effort of just like making things shorter because like fans would only put up with so much. I mean, maybe they could put up, I mean, I know they could put a much better Raw show product out if they made it like an hour. I mean, that's my dream, maybe, but that's never going to happen. But yeah, so, it was shorter, whatever. And you're right. Like it could have been longer because they had, Peacock and they probably want to put more content out there. Speaking about more content, they had NXT Stand and Deliver night 1. This was the superior night in my opinion. I watched all these shows, folks. I watched the whole thing. And I'm just looking over the results here. I really liked the gauntlet match. I thought that was a lot of fun. I like that like the way they did the gauntlet was different in that like they had people enter like a Royal Rumble style rather than have 2 guys wrestle in the ring, 1 guy get eliminated, next guy comes out. They did it in intervals. Walter Tommaso Ciampa was awesome. That was like really good time. Raquel Gonzalez, I'm not really down with going over on Io Shirai.
That's the one I'm like,
it was a great match, though. It's a great match. So,
but what the hell? Like, come on.
Right, you're against that too, right? Or what?
I'm like, okay. Last month they put Tony Storm in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they're just doing, the they're playing the long game, and eventually, the end game is going to be, one-on-one Tony Storm versus Io Shirai.
Right.
Like Raquel Gonzalez, like I know why they're doing it. Like we all know why they're doing it because they're doing it for the program with her and what's her name?
Dakota Kai.
Dakota Kai. That's obviously why they're doing it. I mean, they can't obviously think she's particularly good or she deserves to be the champion. It's just like, okay, we have this program in mind, and it's not going to be great getting there, but once we get there, even still, it's not going to be that great because Raquel picked, Gonzalez versus Dakota Kai. It's like the matches might be okay. I mean, it'll probably make for good TV. The slow build with them eventually, going butting heads. It's like, okay, that's going to be entertaining, but the actual in-ring match, it's like,
I think that like Raquel Gonzalez, I understand why they would make her champion. I'm just really high on Io Shirai, and like her matches are like the best quality. She's the best wrestler in the NXT women's division. I mean, it's safe to say.
You have Candice LeRae on that roster who's never been champion. You have Toni Storm who's never been champion. It's like you have all these great women.
Yeah.
Dakota Kai would be a better.
Raquel Gonzalez is not number 2 or number 1. I will say that. Like she's not. I get why they gave her the championship, but she's not even top 5 really. Yeah.
I wouldn't even put her there.
Yeah, but she's big. That's why they're like, she's marketable. She's tall, so she's got the arms, so that's all they care about. Whatever. I thought this was a superior night, like I said, but it was just a really crisp show. I was into it. By the way, Tony, just so because you probably didn't watch the full show, on the pre-show, Zoe Stark beat Toni Storm, so that's where Toni Storm is in the pecking order of the women's division. All right, so night 2, Santos Escobar defeating Jordan Devlin for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship ladder match. I thought this could have been better, but it was good. I don't know. I mean, you compare these shows to WrestleMania, it's just like, all this shit's so fucking great. It's really still hard to believe that like NXT. I get like why somebody who's just like brainwashed into like always watching WWE stuff, why they're like, fuck that AEW, because like, yeah, they know that like Raw sucks, but they're addicted to it. They'll watch it every week for some fucking reason. But like they know, like they watch NXT. They're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Because if you compare to Raw to like NXT, it's like so much better NXT.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's just yeah.
I'm really curious to see what will happen actually in the next few weeks now that NXT's on Tuesdays. Because I feel like they might like start getting close to being Raw, like in terms of ratings. Because like now that they don't have any other competition, like I mean, just looking at the product like day to day, it's like night and day. So I just
maybe quality wise, I don't know about rating wise. I mean, they don't have AEW to split the ratings with anymore, but
right. And Raw ratings are not that high. If you combine certain weeks, if you combine like NXT and AEW ratings and compare them to Raw, they're basically the same. So I know that's putting 2 shows together against one, but still, it's got potential. Like, Raw just keeps going lower, so there's no bottom for them. So maybe, all right. Yeah. What else? Gargano being Bronson Reed was all right, like Karrion Kross beating Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. Not okay with this. This was the best Karrion Kross match I've seen. Having seen it, why the fuck is this guy champion? Like really?
Well, between that and the women's champion, we know why. Because they're big. Look at all this beef in the ring.
Beef. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. And, give them a cool little entrance or whatever, which I also think like the entrance, like it's cool. Like the first couple times you see it, it gets over dramatic. Eventually it's kind of like, okay. And then you're just checking out Scarlett because she's hot, and that's pretty much where that goes, folks, to be honest. But yeah, Karrion, whatever. I don't know. He's champion now. Kyle O'Reilly beating Adam Cole. This was phenomenal. This was the match of the week. 40 minutes of a Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole match, street fight style. Fucking awesome. And it definitely put Cole over enough where like he can be considered I think he's ready to be considered the guy. So hopefully he wins that title soon for Karrion Kross, and
we all know he's not.
But he's gonna win it like eventually, though. Like it probably won't be soon. It will be like maybe August. They'll give him the title. I think.
No, we need the 1 year run of Karrion Kross.
Fuck no. I mean, he's not that bad, but still, like that's
Hunter's boy.
They can do better.
Project.
Oh jeez. All right. Well, SmackDown, like I said, was all right. I was surprised by how all right it was. To be honest, it was just kind of like honestly, if you want to put on a show that's like not exciting, but also not like boring to the point that you regret watching any part of it, that's what SmackDown was, folks. And maybe that's what they do weekly. I don't, but I thought, I think they just were kind of boosted by the fact that they had the Association of WrestleMania and giving you 2 matches that you would normally watch on the pre-show. And frankly, should have been on the pre-show, but for some reason wasn't on the pre-show. So, but I'm going to look at those results. I'll just ask you straight out, Tony, what did you feel about WrestleMania Night 1?
I thought it was just okay. We've had meetings that have been way worse. So I can't really sit here and say it was a terrible show from bell to bell. It was hysterical that they got postponed. That was hysterical.
Yeah. I like that. I was like, this is going to be an interesting Mania. Like I think it's keep getting postponed because, my friend that was actually there said, oh, they just told us we're not going to be able to, the show will not resume until 9:00. So they actually were able to get under that. It was about like 40, 45 minutes that they had to postpone, but not a full hour.
But
so,
as a show, I thought it was okay. I am not the biggest fan of this 2-night deal. I understand why they wanted to do it. Because of the network, but now that they're on Peacock, it's like, okay, can we just have the one show? Like that NXT show that we just ran down. You cut a couple stuff from those 2 cards, you sandwich them together, you get a really good show. I felt the same way about Mania here. It's like, okay, you had a lot of good stuff that would have made for a really great 1-night show spread over 2 nights. It's like we got a really good show, but then we're gonna water it down.
Well, that's another thing too. Is like I felt like watching Raw, like the roster is very thin. Certainly it's a lot more thick in AEW. I felt like NXT's roster is a lot more thick than Raw's roster, which doesn't. I know there's a lot of guys they want to have come up and this and that. You're teaching new people. Maybe some people aren't quite ready for Raw, whatever. But like they really need to make Raw the thicker roster, as far as just like making it a more interesting show. And I think the same is probably true of SmackDown as well. They seem a little thinner on the roster and their possibilities of who they could put in certain spots. So I kind of like NXT. I say I like NXT to be a 2-night show because it was fucking, both nights were really worth watching. And I would take both of these nights over both of those WrestleMania nights. And we can just be happy with that. Honestly, we didn't need to have WrestleMania as far as entertainment value.
I just don't understand where this edict comes where everything now needs to be 2 nights. It's like, well, we could have one really awesome card and get rid of all the filler, or we could just have 1 night.
Well, I really agree with that. I had a friend who was also kind of like you, where he's just like, I'm not going to watch all this shit, And
it's true. You have to pick and choose because it's like, okay, maybe if I'm not busy, I'll watch it on my computer while I'm doing other stuff. But I'm not going to sit here for conceivably 6 nights, 7 if you count SmackDown, and I'm going to watch all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's not sustainable. You can't. There's no super fan that's going to watch every single one of those shows from beginning to end.
I almost did it though. I'm not even a super fan.
Even you, Mr. WrestleMania, who freaking, how many Manias have you been to? Like 6, 7?
A few. 5 or 6 or something. I know people that go every year, like that. So I'm not like any level fan of they are. But I will say this: the friend was like, "What should I watch on this?" And I'm like, "Don't even watch night 1. Just watch night 2." Because I also know he likes shit. Like I know he likes some crappy stuff too. So I was like, before I just totally bypass night 1, I'm just looking into it. ... Seth Rollins is all right, which is what to be expected. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, frankly, he liked it, but I was just like, this is average, like it's the main event. Like, I mean, for instance, Bayley could have had a better match with Sasha. A lot of women could have had a lot better match with Sasha than what Bianca can give out, and this is probably the best.
Yeah, I've been there since I think we did the Royal Rumble review. She was not the person to put in that position.
Right.
I don't see this. I didn't see the match as, oh, we could have had X, we could have had Y. I just thought, okay, this is the match we're presented with the build we've had, and for what the match was, I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, looking at it, it's the second best match on the show for sure. So I mean, yeah. Drew and Bobby was like, all right, but they could have done more with that. They decided not to. But yeah. It's cool. I mean, certainly you went the right length, but it was just like, it's opener. Okay, we're not gonna put that much of an emphasis on it. So whatever. I mean, Bianca, like, cool, man. Like, you're making a new star. I just don't really think like she's the one you run with.
Yeah, that's the thing from day one when they gave her the Rumble win. It's like, okay, they're giving it to her for some reason. I don't know. She's gonna have an okay match, not pretty decent. But I mean, she's not like someone who long term you're gonna wind up building the company around.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, Sasha does belong in a WrestleMania main event, even though I don't like her personally because I hear personally she's kind of a bitch, in real life. But I don't care. She's a good wrestler. She deserves a WrestleMania.
When they're on TV, I don't care what kind of person they are.
I care, but it's cool. But yeah, I mean, she's she's not. Frankly, I don't think she's as good as a Bayley or a Becky or a Charlotte, but she's very good, and she works really well. If the other person knows how to work in the ring, Bianca knows how to work in the ring to a certain extent. They had a decent main event. A lot of pressure in that position too. So like whatever, but. I do think that WrestleMania, if you count it as like a separate WrestleMania 37 Night 1 is the worst WrestleMania ever. I do think that. Because, again, I guess I'm measuring worst by, like, most boring. And it's just like, that was the most boring. And they had, like, a weird, like, act of God in the first 45 minutes, folks, and it was still, like, fucking, this show. It's not that interesting.
I still think there are way worse Manias out there.
Well, I think like when I was thinking about making that statement, I was thinking WrestleMania 9 because a lot of people are like, well, fucking Hogan, right? Like at the very end, like fuck that guy. That was a horrible move. That made him lose a lot of money. That was a bad decision. Really screwed Brett over. This and that, as far as this character, that we're really trying to support and make money off of. We totally destroyed him. But for a while. But I mean, head shrinkers, Steiners, and like Shawn Michaels to Tonka, and like. Frankly, other aspects of it made it interesting because it was all togas and all that. I mean, it's like worst versus most boring. So, like I'll watch Mania 9 repeatedly. I don't ever want to watch this show again because it was just so boring, honestly. Not as boring as Raw. So that's why I gave it like a 6. But, like it's pretty boring. Not WrestleMania worthy. So I tell my friend, I'm like, you're going to want to watch Night 2 because he likes crappy angles, and so he's totally gonna be down for Randy Orton versus The Fiend. He likes Natalya, so that like super long match with Natalya against teaming with Tamina versus Shayna and Nia Jax, he's gonna be into. He's smart enough to like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and Rhea Ripley and Asuka, and the Triple Threat main event. Like he likes weird shit, and then like also. Like really good stuff too. So, and that's kind of what this had. It was just like every match was like more interesting for the most part. And you could put this WrestleMania Night 2 and put Drew and Bobby and Bianca and Sasha on this show. It could have been a 4-hour show, one night of WrestleMania, and then the pre-show could have had Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. Some people are like, why put Seth Rollins? But but still, that would have totally worked. But that wasn't the plan here. I think ultimately, they're going to make WrestleMania 2 night show because they're now, even though they announced it like in the press release what day they're going to have the WrestleMania in Dallas, when they do the commercials during WrestleMania, they've said like it's coming in April because some people are thinking the thought is that like maybe we can expand this to 2 nights, even if there isn't a pandemic going on, and we can make twice as much money, 2 sold out stadiums. Yeah. So, and that's obviously kind of fleecing the fans, or at least the local fans. And that's not.
I think long term, this is not a sustainable business model. The idea that, oh, we're gonna have all these fans, they're gonna be willing to shell out all this money for 2 nights of Mania.
I mean, they're still in town and they watch like a lot of other stuff. So I don't know.
I know, but what you're probably gonna have happen is people are gonna be like, well, if Mania is gonna be 2 nights, we'll catch night 2 and maybe we'll go watch some other promotion, or we'll just, we're out and about, we're in a new city, so maybe we'll just go take in the town, because we know Mania night 2, all the super important stuff is going to be on night 2.
Right. I mean, you can just measure out the card and know that, like, yeah, like this, what the super important stuff was happening on night 2 versus night 1.
Yeah, week, so. There'll be people maybe like locally, or I can't imagine why would you go to night 1 and night 2. I guess
it'll work. If they try it, it'll work as far as selling tickets. In Texas, I think it'll work, even though that's like a stadium where, it's over 100,000 people. But I still think, like, yeah, maybe they'll be able to swing that. It's going to be the first Mania in years that a lot of people are going to be able to travel, and go to a show like that.
Yeah.
But the following year in California, in a stadium show in California, if they try to go 2 nights in SoCal, no fucking way is that going to work out for them. Like, we live in SoCal, we know like how, sometimes wrestling's really hot, but a lot of times it's not. There's too many entertainment options out there.
I think what's going to wind up happening is, like I said, the model that I said, it's even if they try to load up night 1 with a lot of stuff, most people are going to be like, look, I only got money for 1 night of Mania. If I'm in Los Angeles and I live somewhere else in the country, like, maybe I'll take in the town the first night, or maybe I'll go watch a smaller promotion or something, and then Mania I'll go to night 2. Because no matter what you tell people, no matter how you try to evenly balance the shows, people are still going to think, oh, night 2, that's the real show. That's the real Mania.
Like the encore, yeah. The last match on the show is the main event, folks. They're not all.
I mean, you could try to just shove as much as you can in night 1. You could have a Brock Lesnar match with Daniel Bryan, and people will still be like, that's cool, and if I can make it, sure, but we all know we're here for night 2 of Mania, whatever the main event just happens to be.
All right. Speaking of which, how did you feel about night 2 of this Mania?
I thought night 2 was a lot better, a lot tighter, what a Mania show should have been.
Matches that stood out for you?
Stood out in a good way or bad?
Am I quizzing you right now?
What's that?
Am I quizzing you right now? Is that too? It's like hard to remember.
I mean, just the finish of the main event is still going to make me mad. And then the Fiend Randy Orton match, that's going to make me mad, but for a completely different reason.
It's fucking stupid.
And it's just like, I'm like, these are the easy ones, folks. Just, I'll say this much about the Randy Orton Fiend match. It was really short. And for as painful as it was, at least it was really short.
I was there at SummerSlam 2019 when the Fiend finally debuted against Finn Balor. And, like, I thought, like, dude, I guess I was having a great week. I was having a great vacation in Toronto. But I was like, the Fiend is like the second coming of the Undertaker. Like, this is like the great character of our time.
Cool too. He was so old.
Yeah. Like, he comes out with like basically Bray Wyatt's severed head. I mean, I know it's not. Everybody knew it wasn't Bray Wyatt's actual head because like that Bray Wyatt, but it was like it looked like he made his severed head into a lantern. And it's like how and all these like the scary fucking music. I mean, the music's still fucking cool too. It's like almost. It's like the closest WWE's ever gonna get to like death metal. Like,
well, my thing is when the character debuted, it was white hot. Like that was a really overact.
But then,
it was a combination of multiple things. The stupid light gimmick. If you remember that when he first started doing his first couple matches, and all of his matches would be in red, especially that stupid.
That I have a problem with actually, but yeah.
It's fine if he's wrestling a jobber, but when you're wrestling Seth Rollins in the main event of a pay-per-view in Hell in the Cell, and you're doing it in the red light, it's stupid.
Well, we don't probably have the time to go into how much they fucking ruined that character, but that fucking character is ruined to the point that it's now fucking over like Alexa Bliss's career, and it's also fucking over Bray Wyatt's career, and it's like. And then Randy, I thought he was going to go over because I'm like, they're not going to continue this shit for fucking ever. So Randy's going to get some kind of win, and so they can just kind of like get those two away from each other because I bet you anything, Randy Orton has enough fucking clout to be like, I'm fucking out of this shit. We're done here. You know, like I'm going to move on to something fucking good, or at least whatever that's not going to drag my fucking career down with it, because that's what.
Even the Fiend at absolute peak, the matches have never been good. They just like, even when he first debuted in that gimmick and it was white hot and he was being cheered over Seth Rollins, the babyface, the matches were still never great. And then when he had the matches with Daniel Bryan, matches with Daniel Bryan were okay, but that was because of Daniel Bryan, not because of the Fiend.
Yeah.
And I was of the opinion that, you know what, going forward, if they're going to use this new mask gimmick, I figured, you know, you got lots of people in NXT that can really work. And Bray Wyatt's a really good mouthpiece for the, you know, the little segments. Like, put somebody else underneath that hood. Like, I was spitballing ideas to my friend. It's like, okay, you still have Bray Wyatt who can talk, and he's really good with the gimmick. But in the ring, not so much. The matches have been kind of lackluster. So why not get a Walter or somebody, put them under the hood? Since the whole gimmick now is pretty much like it you can barely tell who's underneath it now.
Well, don't ruin Walter, but yeah, give it to a fucking mid card, mid card guy, and then run in that direction. And then like Bray Wyatt can do something interesting over here, because like, hey, you've ruined his fucking thing, and now like he can move on to some other stuff and create some new things. But, like, if you associate the character with his career anymore, I mean, it's going to be like fucking Red Rooster bad. Like, it's going to be like, it's just really something. And I watch Raw, and they're continuing more of it. And it's just like, fucking A, like, really? Like, now there's a few.
Okay, this one's your fault. This one's your fault. You know why? Hey, guess what? It's entertaining. It's not boring.
Not really. Like, it's not entertaining. Like, not even like.
About the Fiend, it's not boring.
Well,
it's stupid.
Some parts of it is not boring.
It's stuff that makes you not want to watch the product, but you know what?
Right.
It's not boring.
I don't know about that. I feel like some parts of it's very like predictable. So there's that. But yeah. So like the predictable parts are like boring, and then the not so predictable parts are like, okay, this is just bad. So yeah, it's like boring and bad. I think it's a mix of boring and bad. I don't think it's all bad. I think it's all bad, but don't feel like all of it's interesting. I think a lot of it's just like, okay, now Alexa Bliss is like having black tar come out of her mouth, like Rudy Giuliani's. Like I'm like, okay, man, like who cares? But I guess it's a little interesting. I guess I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. I want to move on just a little bit. What did you think of the finish of the main event? I thought the match was great. It's just Roman pinning both the guys was just a giant middle finger to the fans. I'm like, I would have been happy if had Edge won or Daniel Bryan won, and just Roman Reigns winning the way he does was just a big middle finger to me.
They shouldn't have Uso come out at the very end. A lot of people pan that. I'll pan it as well. Because it's Mania, and you want to like a cleaner finish. And Roman's certainly a guy that you can do a clean finish with, even if it's a heel going over. Obviously it's not necessary to pin both guys. Obviously, one of them can be like a little stronger if they're not pinned, but it does make him look more. Roman looks stronger if he pins both of them. I wasn't so assaulted by it, but I of course, like I would like to see Edge and Daniel Bryan in future matches with Roman Reigns, and like that doesn't do as much for them when they're both fucking being pinned, laid out by him. So like, I mean, really, who's Roman going to wrestle next? Now the answer is one of those fucking guys, because they don't have that many guys like, put in that position. But like, they're not going to be as strong going in.
You could have had him pin one or the other, and then it's like, okay, well, the guy who we didn't pin feels cheated out, and that's your backlash main event. It's like, okay, Daniel Bryan got pinned, so now we're doing the Edge versus Roman Reigns at Backlash. Makes 100% sense.
So, WrestleMania Backlash this year, whatever. The new title, WrestleMania Backlash. So they kind of like, if you listen to the pay-per-views, they don't always have 2 world title matches, and we know we're getting Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre again in that show. But I would love, this is my fantasy booking, I would love if they just decide not to have Roman Reigns in a title match that pay-per-view, and they just like kept him for the following pay-per-view. And then they had Daniel Bryan versus Edge be like the real main event in that fucking show, and do like a classic fucking match, and one of them goes over, and then that guy wrestles Roman Reigns. And at that time, by the time, this is months from now, but like by the time 2 pay-per-views from now, that one of those guys went over the other, then it'll be like, okay, this is more of a fresh matchup, like Roman versus whoever, which I guess it would probably be Edge at that point, because Roman has beaten Daniel a lot. And frankly, I don't see either Edge or Daniel Bryan beating him the next title match he has. So I think Roman's probably going to be champion until SummerSlam, or at least, yeah. Daniel Bryan should have fucking won. I'll just say it right now. Daniel Bryan should have fucking won.
I would have been happy with Edge, though. Let's be honest. He could have gone either way. I would have been happy.
Edge would have been interesting, And
the thing is, okay. Like I said, I don't know which one makes me more mad: the fact that Roman won or the way he won. Both equally make me mad.
I think like a lot of friends, marks on the internet. I like heel Roman on TV, so I'm like, okay, they can continue that. I certainly never liked him as a babyface, but like as a heel, I'm like, yeah, okay. But it would have been. I see the argument for all guys going over. That's why it made him a really interesting match. Edge would have been probably the most interesting scenario. Daniel Bryan might have been the best scenario, but Roman was the scenario that we got. So, I mean, guy's still strong. One guy's going to be in one day, but they don't have much of a roster, so who knows who that is. Maybe they put Keith Lee against him. I don't know. They got to like just take some guy that's younger that hasn't been in all these main events over and over and over again, and put them against world champion on either brand. And
from what I hear, the current plan is Cesaro.
Yeah, Cesaro. That would be that's great. I mean, he's been in the company for over 10 years, but he hasn't really gotten a shot in the main events. So fucking Cesaro would be great for that. Yeah, that would be great. But do I think Cesaro is going to beat Roman Reigns?
Well, see, that's the problem too. It's like, where do you go from here? It's like who do you build up to beat Roman at this point now? It's like those were the only 2 conceivable ones you could have done. You burn through them in one night. It's like, okay, I don't know where you're going this long term. I guess
maybe they could do Cesaro eventually going over Roman Reigns. Maybe. I mean, they had Seth and Drew go over Brock, so they can do a lot of crazy shit. So.
Well, I guess you could always do another draft. I mean, we talk about things on the SmackDown side, and it's really. I don't see a lot of challengers for Roman Reigns, but I think if they do a draft and they draft some people over, like you mentioned Keith Lee, he's on Raw right now, but if you put him over on the SmackDown, that would be an interesting program.
Yeah. See, Keith Lee's somebody who I'm like, I guess it's partially like, do I think they'll go with Cesaro as world champion over Roman Reigns after this really strong year from Roman? I don't think so, unless they really want to.
I think if it was Raw, it might do it, but this is SmackDown. This is the Fox show. This is realistically the A show, and it's like I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think you're right, because if they had Cesaro after being a Seth and all that, and he challenges Bobby, like I could totally see him taking the world title. Like he would be a lot more easy for that to happen than have Cesaro go to Roman. So, but I'm glad that they're pushing Cesaro. That is good news on SmackDown brand. On the SmackDown brand, right? So. Yeah, not the Raw brand. That brand has nothing going on. That's exciting. Other than Rhea Ripley in some aspects of the women's division, but you're mostly just going to see that on pay-per-view, but whatever. So, yeah, it was, you know what, last year, once he got the live crowd, which is nice to have a live crowd and everything, honestly, last year's Manias were better, both nights.
Oh, a lot better. Like almost 90.
It wasn't because they had Goldberg and Brock and Undertaker. It wasn't because of that. It was just like, they were longer shows. They had more they had longer shows and more in-ring wrestling, and like what really mattered because it was really the only like special attraction of the show. You didn't have all this other bullshit going on, and that Manias usually do live. And it was a better weekend. I was like really turned around for that. So then I watched Raw that next Monday. And I was like, oh, this is okay, but I cannot watch this for a year. So, so now I'm like, do I ever watch this again? Who knows? But I think we're gonna wrap it up. Tony, anything you want to talk about as far as that whole week of wrestling goes that you glanced over? You know?
No, not really. I'm looking forward to AEW this week.
Yes. Pac and Rey Phoenix versus the Young Bucks tomorrow night for the tag titles. So that'll be pretty awesome. Plus the Young Bucks, that big angle where they turned heel, formed the Bullet Club again last week. That was pretty awesome. So some really exciting stuff going on in AEW right now. But yeah, I think that's a week. I think next week we'll talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier, where we get really deep into that show. Because I know that episode 5 airs this Thursday, so we'll be all prepared for episode 6, series finale. So until then, I'm David. That's Tony. That's Tony. And you guys have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.